Welcome to STEAM Powered, where I have conversations with women in STEAM to learn a little bit about what they do and who they are. I'm your host, Michelle Ong. My guest today is Dr. Jenine Beekhuyzen. Jenine is a futurist and founder and CEO of the Tech Girls Movement Foundation. She's a champion of technological entrepreneurship and advocate for technological innovation and diversity in STEM fields. Join us as we talk about Tech Girls Movement Foundation, cultivating an interest in STEM, and teaching young girls life skills through entrepreneurship. Welcome, Jenine. Thank you for joining me today on STEAM Powered. It is wonderful being able to speak to you today about your journey and all the amazing efforts that you're working on with the initiatives for Tech Girls Movement and, all the other advocacy work that you do.
Thanks, Michelle, for having me. Delighted to be here.
Amazing. So, we'll get started on where you began with all this. You have a background in business and software engineering, but what attracted you to pursue these fields?
Oh, what a great question. I guess I studied business at TAFE to start with, so in vocational education, and I found it was a great transition from high school into university and I guess trying to find my way. So studying a diploma of business really got me very excited about how to grow a business and how to make it my own. And I guess I found once I went to university, I wanted something a little bit more than general business, and that's where I guess software engineering was one of my majors, which I took upon, and I loved it. I love the idea of having a project from beginning to end. That there is a beginning, there is an end in this life. Sometimes there isn't an end, so I really like the compartmentalizing of that.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
then you finish, you start again. And so yeah, I saw this great life cycle of what a project looks like from the very beginning to the very end. And to be honest, it was one of the most challenging things I've learned in software engineering around project management and
Mm.
also just bringing a project to life, working in a team and getting everyone to contribute and all of those fun things. And yeah, I guess here we are many years later, having my own team, my own groups of people to work together and creating real community.
That's absolutely amazing. So, software engineering is still something that's a big part of what you do?
Oh, no question. Yeah, probably more than I've probably realized until you've asked me this question, but preparing for today, certainly realized how, running a business, you need so many different kinds of technologies to help you through the day. And running two businesses, so let's duplicate, double that.
Yes.
And yeah, we've had a few software challenges along the way, just trying to get things to talk to each other. And we talk about the Internet of Things, which is a great vision.
Hmm.
I think as a small business, we're not there yet. There's a lot of gaps we need to fill. Certainly, there's a lot of potential. But yeah, I mean, especially when you run not for profit, you try to do everything really cheap at the
Mm,
beginning, and I guess just because you want to put the money into programs rather than the systems.
yes.
But at some point, you do have to invest, and trying to find ways of putting all those bits and pieces together that you've kind of cobbled up to that point can be
Yeah,
challenging. So yeah, software engineering is a constant part of our lives, and we're always trying to do it better.
absolutely. I mean, that's always the whole point of software engineering, just continuous improvement and just trying to increase your scope, increase you know, your impact. And that's what's amazing about the field, I think.
Absolutely, and we're always learning, and there's always new things to learn. So, for instance, we're going through a system, not challenge so much at the moment, but a system we've been working on for a number of years. And now we're at a point where we have choices we didn't have 3 years ago. So, it's a
Wow.
really interesting time to say, okay, well, we didn't decide this 3 years ago because we weren't there. We didn't have the data, we didn't have the background, we didn't have the systems, we didn't have the database. But now that we have those things, there are a whole new world of possibilities in terms of technology available to us, which is, yeah, very interesting to see it in a new perspective.
Yeah. So how did you go from, your work in software engineering to, creating a space for advocacy for women in STEM and the foundation?
Yeah, really great question. I guess it's a little bit of a leap, and my background is as a researcher, so I've been doing research for more than 20 years. And the work that I do with Tech Girls Movement Foundation, really comes from the research I've done for many years within universities. And so it's really nice to be able to actually create a solution to a problem you care about.
Mm,
And in technology, I find so often we create solutions looking for problems
yeah.
rather than the other way around.
Hmm.
Let's define the problem well, and let's create a useful solution to that problem. And often it's the opposite of that. So, and we waste a lot of time and energy. So, something we definitely purport in the Tech Girls program, but also in the work that we do every day. It's like, let's really define the problem that we have and let's work our way backwards to make that happen. So
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to take that theory and put it into practice and see how it plays out in everyday life. And yeah, and I guess Tech Girls, the program we run for schoolgirls across Australia and New Zealand, really is around problem solving, and that's
Yeah,
what software engineering is all about. That's why technology is so fun, because it's about problem solving.
it is.
It's about using technology to solve maybe old problems and looking at them in new ways. And we invite girls to do that, and I figure we should be doing that ourselves, and we definitely try our best.
Excellent. So let's rewind a bit. So, for the people who don't understand about the ecosystem for women in
Mhm.
STEM, let's talk a little bit about the issues surrounding our pipeline and our career development there.
Yes, so the research tells us that girls opt out of STEM as young as 6 years old. So STEM being science, tech, engineering, and maths. So we do lose girls at quite a young age, unnecessarily, I would say. And that's just because of the perceptions of what a STEM person, STEM professional looks like, what they do. And I feel there's so much wasted opportunity there. So our program really is designed to engage girls as young as possible. We start at 7, and to be honest, we actually had 6-year-olds in our program last year who created an app to save some wildlife, which was
Oh,
just
that's
truly
wonderful.
amazing, and they did such a great job. But technically, 7 to 17.
Yeah.
But again, trying to get them as young as possible, just to open them up to the possibility that technology can be used for good, that they can use technology to have a voice. It can help them to solve problems that they care about, and that their voices are important, and we need them now more than ever, right? We need young
Yes.
people, and I think it's so easy to dismiss young people. They don't know what they're doing, they're on their devices all the time.
Yeah.
I'm sure on some level that's true, but they really do care about the world, and they care about people, and they want to make a difference, and so trying to find an opportunity to give them a way of doing that.
That is very, very cool. So, I've got a young child myself, but how do you engage a 6-year-old or 7-year-old in understanding these concepts of technology and problem solving and how they fit in the STEM space?
Great question. So we had something I said earlier, but no, it's a great question, and this is why I kind of put this book together a couple of years ago. It's 5 things you can do to engage girls in STEM,
Yes.
to answer exactly that question. And to be honest, it was sort of 20 years of research that I had done, put together in the book, of just putting it out there as something that hopefully will help inform parents, inform teachers, that we all have an active role to play,
Mm.
and we can all, little things make the biggest difference. We don't quite realize sometimes, and that goes positive and negative as well. The little things can make the biggest amount of difference. And I mean, for the 5 things, which I think will answer your question, and if not, please let me know. But it comes down to, I tried to make it really simple to remember, AEIOU.
Ooh,
Remember those that
nice.
we did, many years ago. But A
Yeah.
is around autonomy. So it's around creating leadership opportunities for young people. So whether it's just, take the lead in the group, or whatever it is that we're doing, but giving them an opportunity to find their way to take some leadership responsibilities.
Yes.
E is around ethos, so it's about having positive mindset, and so the work by Carol Dweck and others around, and we've seen some great experiences in our program of girls who have done exceptionally well, and then they apply for something and they're saying to me, "Oh, I don't know if I'll get accepted." And I think that's the ultimate form of growth mindset, that even though you've
Yes.
done so well, you still know that there's more that you can learn.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a beautiful thing about learning, is there's always more to learn, and that's a great space to be in. I think, not that I've done it, I know everything. There's always new things to learn. I know I have a billion more things to learn, so I've got
Absolutely.
hopefully a long time yet. And I guess, so I is around involvement, and that's around hands-on activities.
Mm.
So whether it's pulling a computer apart or a piece of technology, or but something around physically doing something with your hands, that's beyond an app. So an app
Yes.
doesn't really qualify, but something where we get to actually build something together, and breaking things is great. I love to break things because then I get to fix them, and that's how we
Yes.
learn. So I'm a big advocate of breaking things as well, and certainly just getting your hands involved.
Yes.
And O is around otherness, and it's around, it's around understanding why we need diversity
Mm.
in STEM. So right across STEM, science, tech, engineering, and maths, we need diversity in the way we build things.
Yes.
And a really good example is around, for instance, artificial intelligence. So AI is amazing; it helps our lives so much. But a friend of mine was applying for a job recently, and so she did the online application, and within an hour, so it was a big global company, and within an hour she got a rejection,
Mm.
which is quite highly qualified. She's got a MBA, and she's been in the industry for many, many years. And she was surprised she got such a quick response.
Yes.
And so my reply to her, it was the AI system did that for
Yes.
you. So the AI system, many big companies, they go through applications for CVs and they decide based on certain words that you
Mm-hmm.
use whether or not you should go through the next round of interviewing.
Yes.
I guess what a lot of people don't realize is that mostly those AI systems are built by white guys between 18 and 35, and no offense to them, but that is generally the makeup of that part of the industry and a lot of the industry. And so they actually program certain words in those systems that will actually recognize other people just like them.
Mm.
So the words they use to pick up in CVs are actually more tended towards what men would use rather than what women would use. So I would say her CV just got thrown out just because of certain words that she used, and they
Yeah.
missed out on a great opportunity. So I think understanding that we need diversity of thought. If we all look the same, we all think the same, and that thought actually gets translated into the technology that has exponential impact on society. I think so. Those simple things can have a
Yeah,
massive impact.
certainly.
Yeah. And so then I think the U is around computing with a purpose. So
Mm.
it's not just coding for coding's sake. It's not just
Yes.
building a piece of tech for tech's sake. Like I said, it's a solution, not a solution looking for a problem, but the other way around.
Yes.
And so I think it's really important for us to find ways, and one way we do it is for girls to align their work with the SDGs, so
Mm.
the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So that allows girls to think locally what they're doing, but actually have a global impact on that. So it's around what we're doing is important, but it's important to humanity and not just the people just like me.
Yes, absolutely. Those are such wonderful tenets to be following in order to, get people thinking about all of these different things in different ways. And, I've been speaking to a few other guests who've basically, embodied a lot of these ideas. I was speaking to Stephanie Ryan. She is an educator and also an author. And her idea or her way of being able to share this with younger kids is talking about how there's STEM in every day. So part of it is, looking at the activities they do. Well, kids love to sort as, taxonomy and categorization. It's, making snacks, you're being able to group colors together, you're being able to balance things, creating parfaits because that's layers and, that's geography. That's talking about how we develop things in the world and how the world naturally evolves. And,
Love that.
it's being able to tune in some of these day-to-day things with STEM lessons that aren't traditionally STEM looking. And, it's, again, as you said, about problem solving. There was a guest spoke about a program at MIT where it's a workshop for programming for kids. But instead of teaching them to be a programmer, the idea is let's teach you to be a problem solver. And they ask the kids, what things are going on in your life, in your world, in your neighborhood that make you think that you think could be made better? And can we make an app to do that? Is there something that we can solve in a tangible way for you? And it gets them talking about, oh, my neighbor has this problem and, it bothers them all the time. All right, let's see if we can fix it, or let's see if we can help them make that better. And yeah, it's just getting people to think outside the box about the way STEM functions in the world and in our lives. And that's great.
Absolutely. Agree, agree. And it's about getting young people to solve young people's problems. It's about getting them to find what they care about and them
Yes,
owning the solving of the problem. For us, that's the key to making it work.
absolutely. Yeah, you need to be invested in the thing that you're building. And yeah, what better way to do it than to choose something that actually matters to you?
Absolutely. And once they do, you see they just kind of explode from there once they
Yeah,
do. Yeah. And and if you think about what happens at school, usually you get told what to do.
yes.
So having an environment where you're actually not told what to do, you're giving the structure to make the idea come to life, but you get to choose. And we've certainly had instances where, so I'm just thinking of a public school that I went to in regional New South Wales. I was fortunate I had a group of girls. The girls came up with a problem that was very girl specific. It was a hair thing. It was, I don't know, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of a thing called a shark fin. Anyway, I
Okay.
hadn't heard of a shark fin before, but it turns out a shark fin is when you put your hair up and you have this bit in the middle that kind of sticks up, and just because
Ah,
of,
yes.
anyway, it's a thing, and I've had it my whole life, didn't know what it was called. Anyway, these girls were thought it was a big deal for them that, they wanted to get rid of this shark fin, and then another team of girls were like, yeah, yeah, we agree, this is really important. And it was like, fine, that's important to you. You solve the problem that you care about. And the teacher pointed out if there were boys in the room right now, they would have ridiculed the girls, they would have shut them down, and the girls would not have pursued that.
Yeah, because what a stupid
And so
idea to have to
again,
solve.
yeah, that's it. There's an argument, girls only, safe spaces for people to
Mm,
learn. That's really important for us, even though there's an idea we're kind of there or we're not kind of there. But
yeah.
for me, that was a great example of having that space to explore what's important to you, and all ideas are relevant. And I mean, you see what's happening in Silicon Valley, and there's a lot of women owned businesses trying to put great ideas forward, but they get shut down because they don't appeal to half the population. Well, half the other ideas don't appeal to half the population either. So
Yes,
I think giving people a safe space to create is really, really important.
it really, really is. So, what sort of initiatives and programs does Tech Girls Movement Foundation, you know, work on in order to create these safe spaces and environments for them to learn?
Yeah, thank you. Our signature program is our annual 12-week STEM entrepreneurship program, which is called the Tech Girls Competition. So we pitch it as a competition because competitiveness is a good thing, and it's great to try to. And, Australian girls, we love to compete. We love to try to be the best that we can. And in saying that, though, there is all sorts of levels of prizes, but it's around. I guess working together. And so what girls do is they form a team. So we will launch on International Women's Day, which is I think just 2 weeks away now. It's come
Yes,
up
it's
very
very
quickly.
close.
And so every year we launch on International Women's Day, and we invite teams of girls, up to 5, to get a coach on board. So that coach is either their teacher or their parent, and they register the team. So once they register, we match every team of girls with a female mentor who works in STEM.
Hmm.
So from all kinds of big and small companies, and so that person agrees to guide the team through for 12 weeks. So to meet
Hmm.
them for 1 hour per week over 12 weeks. So that's pretty amazing for a young person to have an adult you don't know take you seriously for
Yes.
12 entire hours over
Yeah.
3 months, and literally just sit there and say, ask me questions and how can I help you? There's something really powerful about that. And our mentors love it, and our students love it as well. And so once they join the program and they're matched up, so in term 2, they work together to firstly, there's four modules. So the first one is to ideate.
Hmm.
So follows the old software engineering process, which I guess is now transformed a little bit into design thinking, and there are elements of that in there. But certainly
Yes.
it's about brainstorming and finding a problem that you care about. So once the team can decide on a problem, then they have to research out other people who've tried to solve that problem. And once they've done that, they then have to design their own
Mm.
solution to the problem, usually in the form of a wireframe for an app. They build a business plan. And once they get that together, then they actually have to do a pitch. So they build a working prototype, and then they have to pitch it, and they have to do a demo. So at the end of
Wow.
12 weeks, it's pretty amazing. So these young teams of young girls, I should say, are preparing a business plan, a working prototype of an app, a pitch video, and a demo video all in 12 weeks.
Oh goodness,
And then we
that's
go to
amazing.
judging, we go to industry. Every entry gets judged by at least 3 people in industry. We have our state, national, regional prizes. Hopefully this year we'll be back to face events where we can
Yeah.
bring the community in to see what the girls have done, and so they can share it with their family and friends. Usually we would take the teams to Silicon Valley, and we did that 4 years in a row. We took
Yeah.
about 45 girls over 4 years to pitch to 10 companies in a week, so the Googles and eBays of the world over there. Fortunately, that's not the case at the moment, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's this great life cycle where girls are getting, and the thing that the girls said they loved so much about last year, out of everything that happened with all the madness, they said they just loved the teamwork. They loved
Yes.
working with other people, and the opportunity and a reason and purpose to get together. And so our primary school winners for last year were a team from our locally here in Brisbane from a public school. They're 11, and they created a 91-page business plan.
Oh my goodness, 91 pages. That's more detailed
It
than
was
most
amazing.
grown-ups.
It was amazing. It's the record. We've never had that. Not that we go for quantity, but we were blown away. And the girls, their app is called Girltastic, and they created an app to empower schoolgirls to have more confidence. So
Oh, that
it's
is such a
truly
good
awesome.
idea. Oh, that's wonderful. And it's great that it's making them think about all these things and, putting it into action in ways that, we do as adults in the workforce from start to finish. And it's such a wonderful set of skills to have because it doesn't just apply to business. It applies to everything that you work on at school or even personal projects. And you really do have to think about it in this way in order to ensure success. And yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. And a great example of that, I was speaking with a parent recently whose daughter came through the program a number of years ago. And she said her daughter goes into maths class now, and it's not just maths class anymore. It's now maths to help me get my business off the ground.
Oh,
So she
wow.
looks at maths class in a completely different way, and there's purpose and meaning to it, which wasn't there before. So yeah,
That,
I'm
that
pretty proud
that's
of that.
incredible. And it's such an important thing as well because math is often where, a lot of people have said, math is where a
Mhm.
lot of women fall down. And, even I freely admit I suck at calculus. It just wasn't my thing, wasn't into it. But a lot of people would think because they can't do the maths that they can't do the other things because they're prerequisites. And, when you're growing up, they don't teach you about this is how you apply these things. And, again, another guest um, was saying that, you need to be able to teach these skills in ways that are relevant to them so that, they know that learning these math skills isn't just because they're forcing us to do it because it's boring, it's necessary. It's because it's valuable and can be used to achieve an end and
And
giving
it
them
makes the world
that
go
objective.
round, right?
It does, and it makes the world go around. And you can't have bridges without maths. You can't, all the stuff that you do, your toys are built with maths. And yeah, get, I love the fact that she was able to switch that perspective to say, right, I need math. This is a tool that I need in order to achieve my objective. And that's very, very cool.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely. Even running 2 businesses as well, you need math. You need to know,
yeah.
do you about books balance? Are you making good decisions? Is someone ripping me off? Like, you need to know these things, to be really honest. So,
Yes.
at some point, you need to know the maths, and yeah, it's not about being scared of it. It's just learning it like anything else and knowing how much better it can make your life.
Absolutely. It's so important. And, again, finance, understanding your books, understanding the value, doing your due diligence in
Mhm.
everything that you work on. It's so great.
And we
Ah,
have actually had parents, I think, probably more so than teachers, ask us to take the financial part out of the work that we do in terms of the business plan, just because it's too hard. But of course,
no.
we disagree with that, and you can leave it
Yes.
out. But by all means, we want you to at least think about, uh, and it's more than just the finance. It's this
Mm,
idea that you should be paid for the work that you do.
yes.
And I've certainly run this program with boys and girls in the room, and
Mm.
it's really interesting because boys were like, "Yeah, and you get paid $1,000 a day," kind of thing. Girls are like, "Oh, I'm going to do it, and maybe I'll get paid at some point, and maybe I won't." But it's like, actually, this is if you're going to do a business case, if you want someone to fund you, you have to come in and say how much is going to cost you wage wise per person in the team. You need to get paid. If you don't, it's not going to work out. You're going to get burned out, and it's all going to die. And so we need an actual business case. So it's more than that, and you deserve to
Yes.
get paid for this work.
Absolutely. And that is such an important lesson that even adults need to learn. And
Mhm.
even I am learning as I'm going through doing my own things. Because so many of the things that we work on, it's like, well, nobody will really care about it except for me. So obviously the value is only intrinsically there for myself. It's like, yes,
Mhm.
but you're putting that time in, you're committing
Mhm.
your efforts and your energies and your skills and experience to building these products or building these services, and you deserve to be compensated for that value that you're giving. And, it's so funny that, as you said, the boys go, yeah, absolutely, I'm worth $1,000. And the girls go, I don't know, it's a little bit airy fairy. I'm not sure if I'm worth that. And it's like, what makes us think that way? What is it that make us
Well, because you and I
so
do this as well. That's part of it. That's part of the problem is we need to roll the list to younger people. I think we absolutely do, and I think we need to. And I've done it forever. I've said yes to everything forever, and that's what you do because you care, and that's okay. I'm not saying we don't do that. I think
Yeah.
it's just being a bit more conscious of. And it makes all those numbers around unpaid leave or unpaid work make sense, right? Because this
Yes.
is all the stuff that we're doing on top of everything else. So I think just having being aware of it, if nothing else, that this is what you're doing and the value that it has.
Yeah.
Hopefully, other people might start to recognize it a bit more.
Absolutely. And, as a child, even if you're thinking about, well, this is how much time I am committing to this particular thing versus to this other thing, and getting them to think about the value of their time and the way that's being divided. It's such a very simple bit of, financial management, even if it's no actual money involved, that I think sets people up for the future in terms of how they value their work and their contribution.
Mhm. Definitely, definitely. It's yeah, awareness is everything.
Yes. Oh, such great lessons here in this program. Absolutely amazing.
It's such a great celebration of young people and young people having a voice and telling us what they care about. And what's been really interesting over the last few years, I mean, now we're in our ninth year, which is
Yes.
super exciting, and I never could have dreamed that's even possible. 10-year anniversary next year, which we've got a
Oh, very
big
exciting.
campaign plan around where are they now, and like where are our alumni and what are they doing. But
Yeah.
certainly it's been really interesting to look over the years, in terms of the trends of what problems young people are trying to solve.
Yeah.
And so I guess in the last couple of years, we've certainly seen a trend more towards well-being and mental health and self-care and probably more individual, I guess, challenges.
Mm.
And it's been really interesting to see, I guess, that it's an accepted thing to be talking about those things now. And I had a
Yes.
mentor last year who was from a culture where mental health isn't really discussed. So
Mm.
she was born overseas, and she had a team where that was the topic of their app. And she even really struggled to with the girls to say, look, but why should you be spending time on
Wow.
this? Because in her life, it's just something that you would never be given the luxury to actually explore at all.
Suck it
So
up,
it was
carry
quite
on.
fascinating to see. Absolutely. So, and obviously really important to everyone, but
Yeah.
some cultures are still catching up, and I guess we're doing okay, at least having the conversation. But yeah, she had to be convinced herself that this was something she should even put her time into mentoring a team who were actually exploring this,
Yeah.
which I thought there were so many interesting layers to that.
That is absolutely fascinating because, I guess in the environment that we're in, we take for granted that these days people talk about self-care, about, thinking about your own balance and trying to find ways to do that. But, there are people who are adult who have been living their lives a certain way where this perspective is quite different and can provide a lot of dissonance with the way that they've been raised or the way that they are accustomed to thinking about things. So
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
it's great that the mentors are also kind of starting to adjust their thinking as a result from this program as well.
Yeah, I interviewed about 15 of them at the end of last year for a research project, and it was fascinating. I learned so much just around, yeah, how they navigate their way and some of the challenges they face in terms of religion, being matched with certain schools because,
Mm,
which may conflict with their religion, from different cultural differences and how I guess I was always the belief, like, you're adults, you'll work it out, they're kids, kind of, you'll find a way. But it's really, maybe that's a little naive of me, but it's been quite interesting to understand the mentors a little better and the challenges that they face. Jumping into this thing, all in and let's try.
yes.
I mean, hang out with kids. I had a mentor who once said, I haven't hung out with 11-year-olds since I was 11. So I don't really know what to do. I think that's a really good example. And we kind of throw them in the deep end, and most of the time they find their way out really well.
Well,
Tiny bit of
something,
time. There's a couple of little challenges, but generally they're very small. And yeah, it's a great experience for everyone.
yes, and it's just support from all angles, and it's wonderful. Oh, such an interesting challenge as well. Like, yeah, placing the mentors, as you said, that is a very interesting thing to have to, consider with the logistics and, all the
Hmm.
factors, as you said, the cultural, the faith factors, and that's
And to be honest, we
amazing.
haven't. We actually don't consider any of that. I'll be really honest. We kind of just go, you're an adult, you're in this location, we'll match you. We don't go into any more detail than that because again, you
Yeah.
just open case of worms and
Yes.
where do you stop?
Yes.
But for us, it's around giving girls a positive role model who will guide them through the program. They don't have to know the answers, but they know how to find the answers and just to be there as a support system. And if you can be that positive role model, that's all
Yes.
we're asking for. All the rest, I
Absolutely.
figure, kind of
It's
works
not.
itself out. And
Yeah.
again, you're an adult, kind of work it out. And that's all.
Exactly.
That's the least we can do for young people, I figure.
Yeah, and it also becomes an interesting exercise for the adult because now they're having to think about how they would adjust to these things because as adults, we can choose to put ourselves in environments or to remove ourselves from environments. But here it's like, well, now how do I adjust? How do I approach this in a way that is still going to be educational for the kids and
Mhm.
allows them to think about things in different ways as well for myself? And that, yeah, that's very cool. There's so much room for
Yeah, it's
learning
actually
there.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I did have a mentor last year who was visibly Muslim, and we matched with a Christian school. And again, we didn't really think this through.
Yeah.
Hindsight, maybe, but again, she talked through the process, and when I spoke to her, it was a number of months after this had happened, so she'd had time to process it, which I think was really helpful for me.
Yeah.
But she was actually quite anxious about turning up to the school face to
Wow.
face and how they were going to receive her because of experiences she had had in the past, and she was quite young in
Yeah.
the industry, so she didn't necessarily working on her confidence. But what was amazing was when she turned up at the school, they welcomed her with open arms. The team were very friendly, very open. They asked very innocent questions about what she was wearing and so on. And so she said how she went away at the end of that experience and really had to reflect on herself and how she almost went into battle in
Yeah.
situations. Like she was expecting things to happen that may not have happened. And
Mm.
that she kind of reflected on her whole identity and how she approached those situations. So for me, that was just mind blowing that we couldn't even plant a tiny seed of something like that happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is one of those things where when you are in a community where you're used to this sort of behavior and the microaggressions, you automatically gear yourself up for combat, and it's just a natural
Defend it, of
reaction. But
course.
yeah, it's yeah, I'm glad that
Again,
it
they're
worked
kids,
out.
right?
It is a
And
kids,
they're
and
kids, right? And,
yeah,
kids can be nasty, but kids, they're our kids, they're our tech girls, and they all come in with the right purpose, the right mindset generally. They're there for a
exactly.
reason and they want to learn, which I think we can all learn.
Yes, absolutely. It's a great space for growth.
For sure.
Yeah,
Every single day.
excellent. Yeah, and yeah, so you do a lot of research as well for, your other business. So can you tell me a little bit about that and the sort of work that you do?
Yeah, no, thank you. And it crosses over quite a lot because Tech Girls was based on, doing research for many years around why we don't have enough women in tech or
Yeah.
STEM, and then turning that into practice as Tech Girls. So it's like, well, let's take the reasons why and let's
Mm.
turn them into something tangible that works. And that's where we're at. But I guess for me, it's always about constant improvement. And so evaluating our program is really important every year
Mm-hmm.
and taking the findings and bringing them in and working on, improving. But also, I'm very fortunate. I have a couple of academic positions, honorary academic positions, where I've got a couple of research teams, which I love, and I get to spend time and thinking and jumping in and spending probably too much time writing, reading, and writing, which I love. But working with interesting people and finding out new things. So, a couple of projects. I've got a project with University of Technology Sydney
Mm-hmm.
in the engineering department, and we have an outreach program where we've been going out into schools and trying to understand what young people think a STEM professional looks like. They're drawing them and we're analysing them and
Nice.
getting them to do little projects. And we're doing that year after year to try to get that continuity, I guess. And it's not just a one-off come in and leave. It's like, actually, this thing's here to stay and we're here to help you.
Yes.
Another project I'm working on around the digital divide. So, does the digital divide still exist in
Mm.
Australia and the US? And yes, it does. What does it
Yes.
look like now? It's kind of shifted a little bit. And
Yeah,
so, trying to understand how are people delivering services in health, education, and social services during the pandemic, and how have things
absolutely.
maybe changed a little bit, and how have they adapted, which has been
Mm.
fascinating. Just how creative and innovative people have been to just get the job done.
Yes.
So that's fascinating. And another project I've been looking at, culturally and linguistically diverse women in technology. These were the interviews that I did for our mentors last year. And so just trying to understand some of the challenges that not just women, but culturally and linguistically diverse women have
Mm.
living in Australia in navigating the corporate system. And are there different kinds of barriers, which certainly there are, that are coming up?
Yeah.
And what does mentorship look like? So a big part of what we do is mentorship and role modeling. So how does that affect and influence different people at different levels, and how can we do it better, essentially? But yeah, research is fun.
It is. And it gives you so much room to explore all these ideas that, are definitely becoming a lot more salient now than they used to be. And yeah, it's wonderful because it feeds back into the ecosystem that you're building here to be able to, try and, work on the lessons or work on the, you know, ways to mitigate or prevent the kind of issues that you're exploring right now in the future generations.
And it's a different kind of problem solving, right? It's just a
Yeah.
different level of extrapolation of problem solving. It's a different, similar problems, but solving them in a different way. And so I actually have an 88-year-old PhD student, which is amazing.
It
Never too
is.
old. I
No, it's
love.
never.
And yeah, and just I have an online community for PhD students called Research Central that I've set up recently, just to kind of bring together people and take away some of the isolation and the challenges that come with that. And
Yeah.
because what's been going on, we're all really disconnected right now. So how do we
Yes.
bring people back together and learn together and share some of the challenges along the journey?
That's great. So how have you been approaching those sorts of problems?
Interestingly, I believe I've had to really reinvent myself in the last 2 years, to be honest. I used to travel every second week, if not every
Wow.
week,
Yeah.
interstate, delivering, workshops to other universities, schools, presentations, and obviously all of that's changed. And to be honest, I'm very, very, very sick of online. Not this, but meetings. The fact that everyone wants to have an online meeting now, it's like, well, we used to just talk on the phone. Why do you have to see me now? Why do I have to get prepared and get dressed? You're not dressed, but so that I
You're
can look at myself for the
presentable.
next X amount of hours on the screen. And there's, I don't know if you've seen the research around that's come out of Stanford, which talks about what happens when we're in like online Zoom kind of meetings, and the fatigue is real, and it's
Yes.
because in real life, our body, when we're online, our body thinks that we're this close to the person in front of us, which
Yep.
we kind of are right now. And in real life, the only time you ever get that close to someone is when you're either going to go into conflict or you're going to mate.
Yes.
And so we're not doing either of those things online, but your body actually has this fight or flight in that when we're online looking at ourselves, particularly, we've got this whole thing going on in our body that we just can't control. And that's why
Yep.
it's absolutely exhausting.
It
And so I
is.
think what we now need to do, hopefully finding a road out of where we've been, finding some balance along the way. And I'm certainly trying to be more proactive rather than reactive. So making phone calls rather than Zoom calls anytime I get the chance to set up a meeting. And you know what? People have been really grateful, saying, "Thank you for doing this." Like, I've just been for a walk. I've still got my sweats on, and I'm happy just to have a phone call. And it's
Yes.
like, that's it. If we're working from home, why can't we be doing those things? Why do we have to be online like we're in an office like 8 hours a day? It just doesn't
Exactly.
make any sense to me. So I think flexibility goes both ways, and
Yeah.
I'm more than happy just to jump on a call. But I think just trying to find a balance somewhere in the middle, and having shorter meetings. You don't need an hour meeting. Let's try 15 minutes, and then let's follow up with another 15 if we need. But just
Yep.
locking yourself into those big commitments, I think, is just outdated. I don't think we need it anymore.
No, and it's so. I mean, at the start of the pandemic, people were saying, "Oh wow, we didn't actually need to be in person. We didn't actually need to have this meeting. This is absolutely
Mhm.
wonderful." But now we've kind of come back to this whole thing where we need these meetings, and now we need them to be in video, and it's almost so we're trying to substitute the behavior.
Yeah, I don't think we should substitute. It's kind of like the vegan food kind of craze, and I'm all for vegan food, but I don't want to eat a piece of food that looks like that's plant based that looks like a piece of chicken. Like, I don't understand why you need to make that food look like something you don't want to eat otherwise. Like, again, that's kind of what we're trying to do. It's don't make it fit what it's supposed to be like or what you think it is. Let's just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. It's a weird analogy, but anyway, it sort of
No,
feels the same. It's like,
it's
oh,
not.
we're trying to make something fit, and it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
What's the point?
It's like you're trying to create this additional layer of comfort when it's not absolutely necessary.
And it's not comfortable for everyone. I know some
No.
people love the online, they love to sit here, but most people just turn their video off. And it's like, why are you even online? Why are we doing this? Let's just have half the time on the phone.
Yes, exactly. And it's I mean, you don't exactly gain the benefits of having video as you would in person anyway, because the body language kind of responses that we have, the micro expressions, you still lose some of that nuance in video anyway.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You're on mute, or your video freezes, or people turn the video off. So all those things, absolutely,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, we're dealing with apples and oranges. If we were all on the same playing field, then maybe, but we're not. We don't have all the
No.
same commitment and things, so I don't think it works that way.
Yep. Oh well. Well, hopefully we figure another step out that's not another substitution.
Who knows what we'll learn this year, huh? Pretty
Yeah,
exciting to
absolutely.
find
Yeah,
out.
I think so. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Okay, so with all of the interesting work, all the research, all of your initiatives, seeing how this ecosystem is evolving, what sort of other considerations do we need to make in education, industry, and society to attract more women to STEM and I guess ensuring they have more career longevity?
Oh, what a big question. Great
Yeah, it's
question.
huge.
It is
How do we
huge. It
solve the
is.
planet?
Yeah, it is. 42. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
42.
end of
Yeah,
the
that's it.
universe kind of. Ah, I mean, I think we need to start by investing in young people, and valuing them, and not just dismissing them as this entire lost generation. And I think
Mm,
there are certainly years that we may have lost somewhere along the line there, but I don't think it's something that's very fair to apply to
mm,
all young people. I think they really do care, and we need to hear their voices in terms of how to solve problems going forward, because they will
yeah.
look at things differently than we've done before. So I think
Mm,
that's certainly a start to give them a voice, and value that. And I think it's this whole catch-22,
it
because if you
is.
look at all the industries where women are predominantly found, those industries are not very well valued. And so there's this whole
No.
history of when women are in a certain profession that it gets devalued.
Mm,
And this happened back with the early, the first, programmers back in, or the early programmers in the 1940s, in World War II and just after. And so suddenly women were the ones doing the work. Then suddenly it wasn't important anymore. And this has happened with many industries. So I think it's a societal challenge in trying to stop that from happening. I'm not 100% sure how. But I certainly think women infiltrating, I'm all a bigger fan for finding a way in. And women do need to be part of changing structures, though, and that's how
Mm,
society will change. And so the way I think about it in terms of women in STEM, we need to get 30 a critical mass, and that critical mass is around 30% of women
yes.
in STEM. We've been sitting at 20, 15, 20 for decades.
Mm,
We need to go beyond that, and hopefully, with our program and others, we'll get there very soon. But the idea is, once we have 30% of women as that critical mass in the industry, then those women start to become in positions where they start able to change structures, to
yeah.
change, pay, the gender pay gap. There's the kinds of things that are just so easy to fix that would make a mammoth difference. And
Yes.
so once we start getting women in those decision making roles, then things do start to change. And I think there's a huge amount of hope. I saw a stat, something like, I can't remember the actual number, but in the US, there will be more women than men sort of in decision making abilities. I guess, like, my parents' generation were the first ones that ever had their own money for women. Now they're able to do things with that money. So those power structures start to change a little bit. And that's definitely starting to happen. But then on the other side, you've got, the largest growing homeless population in Australia at the moment is women over 55.
Yeah,
So
we're
how do
hearing that.
we counteract that? Well, that's right. It's this whole generational thing where women have, looked after their families. They've not invested in themselves in terms of careers. They don't have superannuation. Maybe their husbands leave them, their families leave them, whatever happens later in life, they're living in their cars. They don't have access to any
Mm,
money or any investments that they've actually, contributed to their whole lives in an indirect way.
yeah.
So it's really awful that we're in that situation. So I guess we've got two sides of this. We've got the older population and the younger ones, where we hopefully can find ways to empower them and skill them and give them confidence, because we need them to actually solve the biggest problems we have in the world right now.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, people were saying that, yes, we do get a lot of people coming in to STEM, but it's keeping them in there. So there's the retention aspect as well. And then the burnout aspect, because in terms of the industry or the culture, there's, anecdotal and, research evidence that we're burning out as well, much quicker than the men would in the same fields. So we start seeking sea changes for, you know, occupations or careers which don't keep us in that environment, which burnt us
Mhm.
out to begin with. Which means you start losing that top tier of women where they're skilled and they're experienced enough to be in those decision making areas. And then, again, as you said, the you know, lifestyle or the family commitments that take us out of the workforce combined with our lower earning capacity. And then when we get towards the end of our careers, when we need to be depending on investments and nest eggs
Mhm.
and, retirement funds, we don't have as much as the men do at that point because we've had these gaps plus disadvantages. And then, once you get older, you find yourself in a position where you're not as financially stable as you could have been, leading to the homelessness, which is, something that has been coming up in the news a lot lately. And it's been so surprising and awful. But then you're seeing these interesting developments where they're creating shared living environments for homeless women. And I just found that a fascinating way to solve a problem that we shouldn't have had to begin with. But
Agree, agree. And I
yeah,
saw an article
it's,
just this morning about two women, single mothers, deciding to share parenting of their children together and live in a sort of a co-house,
yeah,
cohabitate in a house. And I just think, like, we should be doing more of this. And this
yeah,
comes from a whole breakdown of society. And, the best way for people to thrive is having three generations in a household. And that there's endless research around how good that is for society and for people. And we just don't have that anymore. The loneliness, in terms of statistics, are just off the charts. And so, yeah, I think society's really broken down. So what I'd like to see actually is that technology helps to bring us all back together. And
yeah,
it certainly has an ability to separate and isolate us, but I think it has an incredible ability to bring us back together as well. And I know I'm part of a couple of great communities, and offline, not that we've done offline for a while, but then online is still there. But knowing there are people there whenever you need it, just to kind of have that space and be you. And I think we all need that right now.
We do, we
And whether
absolutely
it's
do.
not misinformation, places where there's a lot of misinformation, because I know some people have that. We won't mention which ones where that comes from,
Yeah,
but yeah, there are certainly places with misinformation out there. But beyond that, real community. How do you build real community online and
yeah.
connect people in the same way they would be connecting offline?
Yeah, and I think that is an interesting problem that people have been trying to address, especially during the pandemic when we're all forced to be more online than we used to be. And, there's been such an interesting development in the area for spaces that are meant to be more community oriented and to allow people to feel safe in,
Hmm.
whatever situation they're in. And, it's such an it's one of those odd things where you'd really only perceive that in science fiction, where they talk about these alternate futures and all of these environments where we are becoming a lot more technology dependent. And here we are now having to live that space and trying to find and navigate our way around creating community when we can't do it in person.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. And I saw even there was like an alternative kind of Tinder app for people who just want to meet new friends.
Yes.
And that's great. We've had so many girls in our program who've developed apps to meet friends. Like they come to a new school, they want to meet friends, so put in your preferences and find some people to chat with. And I think that kind of stuff is very cool. And yeah, I think that, I mean, those kinds of ideas are great. How can we adapt them to meet a wider audience and really help an immediate need that we have in society?
Absolutely. And it's so necessary because even as kids and as adults, it's hard to make friends and it's hard to find people in the spaces that are kind of you. And you cultivate your friends in person over the years, but without having spaces to do it. Like you can't make new friends, you
Mhm.
can't find new networks, you can't, develop these interests in ways that create that sense of community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why Tech Girls is so important. I guess the work that we do is so important because we're creating that network and that community. And I mean, weirdly enough, I finished my PhD 12 years ago, and it was about what makes an online community work. And here we
Yeah.
are 12 years later. I've got my research central community for PhD students, but with Tech Girls, we've got this amazing group of young people solving their problems. We've got their teachers on board as their coaches. We've got mentors matched with them. We've got industry judges. And conservatively, last year we calculated they spent with us at Tech Girls about 10,000 hours on volunteering
Wow.
around STEM entrepreneurship over about 14 weeks. And that's a very, very conservative number. Like, actually, I'd
Yeah.
say it's double that. But to be able to mobilize that amount of people to do something that's important to them in a pretty short amount of time and just make that happen every year is a pretty great thing to do. And I think we're a great example for others that you can definitely give back, and there's a way to mobilize all sorts of people to get together. And some of the relationships go on much further than our competition, like year after year. Teachers have
Yeah.
this connection with these industry people they would never have before to go to. Students have these great mentors that they sometimes hang out with after and check
Yeah.
in with them and see them grow. And it's just this really amazing thing.
It is absolutely wonderful because you get seeing generations of people develop and create these connections and being able to watch their journeys and see how they grow is it's phenomenal. It's so rewarding.
It certainly is, and we now have girls who we know are studying, and this is why we're trying to formalize this with our "Where Are They Now" campaign. But we
Mm,
know they're studying at university. They're doing computer science. They're doing engineering. I know one's doing gender studies, which I'm super proud of.
yeah.
We've got budding authors. We've got girls actually coming back from our alumni running workshops for us in
Oh,
schools and going out there
wonderful.
as role models. So
Yeah,
it's all coming full circle, and it's a really incredible thing to watch.
it is. Oh, so wonderful. So happy for you. This is amazing.
Thank you. And happy for society, I think. I mean, I'm just this tiny cog in this wheel, but it's so many other people mobilize and make things happen. And just hopefully, it's all really about giving girls choices in life. And whether
Yes.
they choose STEM or not, well, STEM will be part of their life, whether they like it or not. They
Yeah.
may not know that yet. But it's about giving them the confidence to go out and either start their own business, get employed, but knowing they can actually solve problems that they care about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's giving them an idea of how else all of these things can be applied and giving an idea of potential and opportunities and all of the things that are available out there to them that they wouldn't otherwise have been aware of.
Yeah, and it's interesting
Yeah.
because often the teachers will say, "Oh, I don't think they can do that." It's like, let's give it a try. And then
Yes.
it's kind of incredible what they're able to do once we take away those our barriers from them,
Yes.
and let them shine their way through.
Yes. Absolutely. And you give them all that agency to be able to give it a shot. and see how, and extend themselves and challenge themselves
And
a lot of
failure
the
is part
time.
of that, and failure is
Yeah,
okay. It's okay to fail. Can I say that out
absolutely.
loud again? It's okay to
Yes,
fail. I fail at something every single
exactly.
day.
Yeah,
And
and
it's failure is part of success, right?
it is, and it's such an important lesson as well because there's so much geared towards making sure that whatever we do, we succeed at. And then you only hear about the successes, you don't hear about the failures, but we need to
Mhm,
hear about them
mhm,
and we need to understand that they exist and it's just part of the process. And the failure is also part of the problem solving because like, well, that didn't work. Let's see how we can make it not do that again. And it's so important. And a lot of people forget to teach failure.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
And I think in the world we live in, this picture perfect Instagram world, that
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's not seen okay to fail. And I
Yeah.
know one great example maybe that we can I can leave you with is one of our young girls who her mother suggested she should be part of our competition, and she said, oh, because her older sister had been part of it and enjoyed it, and the young person who was I think 10 at the time, she goes, no, 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 I'm not going to do that because I won't be good at it. So she side doctored herself out because it's not something she
Yeah.
knew before. So she said, I'm not going to be good at it. I'm not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, her mother persisted and suggested we get a team together, and she did. Ended
Mm.
up winning the national competition, beat 1,000 other teams, pitched in Silicon Valley at 11, as you do, and got on to be school captain and is an absolute gem, and now role modeling to all of her peers. But we may have lost her just from that one comment that I'm not
Yes,
going to be good at that. That one
absolutely.
comment could have been the end of it.
Yep. And it's such a big thing today where it's like don't self-reject. And it's such an important lesson to have because yes, you might fail, but you might also not fail. Like this, you have to think
Mhm.
about the opposite of all of that as well.
You probably will fail a few things, but what you can learn out of that. And I think coming back to your question earlier, it's like, what can we give parents or anyone on the call take them away from today? And I think it's encouraging young people. It's like stick it. Like actually, I'm going to reframe that. It's all actually about an invitation. So inviting people to be involved. And there's some really interesting research out of the US. And I spoke to the researcher, and so she had a whole department of computer science students. And so she was saying, asking the students, so why are you doing computer science? And 80% of the guys said, I'm doing computer science because I like computer science. 80% of the women said, I'm doing computer science because I was invited to. So
Interesting.
someone had said to them, you should do this, you'll be really good at it.
Mm.
And so they did. They wouldn't have done it themselves.
They would have
You should be the
volunteered it.
teaching assistant. You'd be really good at it. Okay, yeah, I'll do that. So it's that invitation. Like, you should come to this meeting. You should present. You should get in front of the photo. You should be leading this. You should be part of this. Like, that is important. And I've noticed it even with mentors. I had a mentor come up to me at an event I presented at in Sydney, I remember a couple of years ago. And she said, oh, I'd really love to be a mentor, but I don't think I could. I've only got a double degree in maths, but I don't think I'm an engineer, but I don't think I'd be any good as a mentor. I was like, oh my goodness, you're killing me.
Yes.
But yeah, so I'm like, please, I'm inviting you, please be part of our program. And now she's one of our biggest champions, and I have goosebumps as I'm saying that because it's amazing. But it's about inviting women. I mean, we think about all the things that you do. Like if someone says you should do this, you're like, oh yeah, I guess I should.
Yeah.
Yep, I guess I should. And maybe I will, maybe I won't. But if they don't invite you, you probably don't.
Yeah.
And I stick my hand up for everything I'm invited to. So that's partly probably why I'm here today as well, because there's an opportunity to share what you do, and you never know what comes out of it. And it's so
Exactly.
easy to say no, and so I think that invitation. So men particularly, notice the women around you and invite them forward and bring them forward, and don't just always take the spotlight. But for us, lifting each other up as well and putting each other forward is really, really important.
It is. It's very important, and it is a very common thing as well. Someone was telling me that there was a there was an award, I believe, that was being run, and the male colleague had said, I'm nominating myself to go in there. Can you please write a referral? And it's like, okay, interesting. And this other person who should have, gone in there didn't do it. It's like, well, why didn't you? It's like, didn't think I should. It's like, you really ought to. You should put yourself in. You are just as qualified. It's like, yeah, but we don't want to put ourselves in that position unless we're asked to be there, unless we feel that we're invited in there, unless we feel welcome or we feel deserving of that space. And it's such, yeah, mindset.
It's all mindset. That's it, and that's why I'm a big fan of Amy Cuddy, and she put your hands on your hips and look at yourself and tell yourself how awesome you are, and get your power pose out, and off you go. And that stuff's really important. Mindset is absolutely key, and we can't keep complaining that we're not moving forward if we don't kind of put our hands up. I think we have to try our best, and I'm not saying that we don't complain, because we should, because things are not okay, but
Yeah.
certainly we have a role to play as well, and we need to put ourselves and our friends and our colleagues forward too.
Yes, absolutely. Being able to share that around a little bit more.
I think so. Yeah, it takes a bit of pressure off, but yeah, and it's not like nominate a friend kind of thing, and so get other people to say how awesome you are rather than doing it yourself, because it's always
Yes,
really hard.
it is very
Get
hard.
that group of people where you can do it for each other, and I think that's magic.
It is, and yeah, it's being able to support each other in ways that you can't offer up yourself, and I think that's wonderful.
That's it. That's it. Find a good crew of people, and yeah, support each other, and having good people around you. Having champions. Champions are key. So a champion is different to a mentor. So a mentor is someone
Mm,
who might guide you through something, but a champion is someone who will actually stand up for you in the room when you're not there and put you
yep,
forward. And so we all need those,
we do.
men and women.
Yes, absolutely. We do need champions, and I think we forget that we do need that level of support. We do it's nice to have that support, and we need that level of support in order to make sure that we can shine, that we can, you know, show that we can achieve. And it's good to be able to have
And
that.
we're worthy. Absolutely. If not doubly worthy, because we work twice as hard, I would say, in
Exactly.
a lot of instances, to prove ourselves.
Yes, we absolutely do. There's no doubt there.
Yep. So any women, mostly very capable. That's why I hire mostly mothers. So
Oh,
women who have children, because they come in, they get the job done, they leave, they value their time, I value their time, and we get stuff done. And they're very, very, very capable, because they spend their entire day problem solving.
that is something that a lot of people have been saying. It's like we can't lose the people who've become parents and mothers because they have these additional skills. They are crisis managers, they are problem solvers, and they have to be efficient in order to be able to function.
Right, want something done, ask a busy person, but absolutely, and they use their time wisely, and so I highly recommend that for anyone who says they have recruitment issues. Hire mothers, even if it's a shared job, part time. They work for 2 days, you get 4 days work out of them, just because of the effort they put in, not because of the hours, but the effort
Yep,
they put in. And no, I think definitely there are groups of society we're totally missing out on.
absolutely. Okay, so we might start to wind up here to get to some of the soft questions. And I've been saying soft in quotes these days because a lot of people say these are not soft questions. So, right. So, what hobby or interest do you have that is most unrelated to your field of work?
Oh, okay. I do craft, so I love making stuff with my hands, and I do
Yes.
mosaics and like anything with paper. But yeah, I love building wall mosaics and doing really weird pictures and things like that out
Oh,
of
that's lovely.
tiles and glass and things, and make them and stick them on the wall. So I think it's completely unrelated. But again, it's sort of problem solving. I really like puzzles, so jigsaw
Yes.
puzzles, which again is completely unrelated, but it's about problem solving. I have this
Mm,
problem. I have 1,000 pieces that need to fit together. I need to make this work. Or I have all these pieces in, I need to fit them on a page and make them look like a picture. So there's this weird theme underlying it. But yeah,
yeah,
I love doing things with my hands, and I think puzzles and pictures are lots of fun.
they are. They are so much fun. And, I love the fact that you do mosaics because it is about extending your creativity and being able to problem solve. And, it's such an amazing way to be able to view a picture compared to, say, illustration or painting. It's such a wonderful medium to be working with.
It's fun. Smashing stuff is fun.
Also, stress releasing. Amazing.
Absolutely therapeutic in the backyard. It's much fun to smash things, yes, and then put them back together. But yeah, it's about taking something in reality, I guess, and smashing it into pieces, and then finding those pieces and putting back together and seeing what that picture looks like. I think that's lots of
Yes.
fun.
Oh, that's so good. I love that. Okay, and which childhood book holds the strongest memories for you?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know if there's one particular one. I know that I was the first to finish my, like, in grade one, we were given a book to read for the first time, and I remember I finished it before everyone else, and it was like Dick and Dora, and I was very proud
Wow.
of myself because I finished it first.
That's
But I mean,
great.
I've always loved reading, and I've rediscovered like Judy Blume and all of her adventure stories, and
Oh,
I think
yes.
I just loved, yeah, anything that was adventure kind of, as a story, and particularly young girls going off and finding their way in the world. And I read a lot now, and I actually probably still read very similar books. I'm a big fan of Elizabeth Gilbert and reading all her books on all of her adventures around the world and
Wow.
lately. And yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's great to support female authors and
Yes.
to, again, give them a voice and to hear how they see the world. And I think it's very easy to have a bookshelf full of male authors because that's what you see in the bookstores
Yeah.
very often. But yeah, I've tried to make a conscious effort in the last couple of years at really investing in female authors and just hearing their voices and going on their adventures with them. So, and that's really what Tech Dolls are about. Like the Tech Dolls are superheroes books, which I hope is going to be a favorite book for young girls going
Oh,
forward. I mean, we've
wonderful.
distributed 80,000 of them. They're in every
Yes.
school in Australia now. And so the idea is, yeah, here's an adventure. Here's hopefully some women you can look up to and aspire to. And, they're just like me. And if they can do it, I can do it. So be like them and find your way in the world and get things wrong and stumble over the way and eventually find something that makes you happy, but and always keep learning. And that's really what it's all about.
Yes. And it's an interesting way of looking at the way that these books geared at girls are written as well. It is about, perseverance and resilience and being able to overcome and, achieve these goals. And it's written in a very slightly different way to ones where you do have male protagonists and it's subtle, but you don't really notice it until you start, reading a lot more of them and seeing,
Mhm.
oh, wow, it's such an interesting way of portraying this perspective.
Absolutely. And if you know about the Bechdel test and any of that stuff, you
Yes.
know about how movies are put together and things. But it's so true. It certainly does permeate culture, and culture impacts on the way we do things. And if you look back on, The Princess Bride and things like that, and no offense to them, they were in their time, they had their place. But you look back now, I kind of cringe just to say these were the messages we were giving young people, and some of the music and things. You're like, no wonder the world is kind of the way it is because these were the messages that that a girl has to be a princess, or, and you have to be saved. And, oh, really? Save
Yep.
yourself.
And that's such an interesting transition now to the way that all of the animations are going, with all the storytelling as well now. So you've got
Definitely
Brave
changing.
and you've got, oh, what was it? I've forgotten the name, but I guess Frozen counts as
Of,
well.
of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
Encarto's new one. There's a number
And
of them
Carter,
now that are
yes.
trying to find a new way, which is great to see because it has a lot of correcting to do, I think. A lot of damage to fix. And not
Yeah.
damage, some girls like that, and that's fine. I think it's just messaging that, yeah, that we're inferior and that we need help. And I think a lot of us don't. I think a lot of us are
Yes.
extremely capable of finding our own way. And yeah, it's great to have others on the ride for us, but not we don't need saving.
Yes. We're completely capable of doing things by ourselves, but it's okay because there are other people around us and it's fine.
Absolutely. And surround yourself with people who have strengths that complement what you have.
Yes. Absolutely.
I think that's the key. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Work
Yeah.
with work with the team and work with people who can do things you can't do, and together we can all make it happen.
Absolutely. We all have skill sets that, we can use to build things together. And it doesn't have to be that, you know, you don't have to be one who's carried. You don't have to be
Mhm.
the one who is the follow or the one behind. It's okay. You can be beside, you can be in front, you can be anywhere you want. And I think diversity of stories is what we need for that.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. And again, it comes back to giving everyone a voice, and
Yes.
we all have something interesting to say. So how can we tap
Hmm.
into that?
Absolutely. Okay. And last question. What advice would you give someone who would like to do what you do, and what advice should they ignore?
Oh, what is it that I do? That's my first question.
Yeah.
I had someone say recently they wanted to do what I do. I was like, what do I do? I talk a lot. I read and write a lot. I, come up with interesting ideas sometimes. Yeah. Oh, I think back to what I said before, like putting your hand up a lot and just saying yes to things, and that's a good way to learn. So you may
Mm.
not know 1,000% how to do something, but give it a try, and that's kind of helped me to get to where I am by always kind of saying yes, yes, yes. I'll give it a go. Um, I'm a big fan of the 80% rule, and this
Mm.
has really helped me particularly in the last few years. In that this whole perfectionist world that we're in, we want to get things 100% right.
Hmm.
well, that's kind of impossible. Perfectionism is just literally impossible. You kill
Yep.
yourself trying. So I figure an 80% rule is a good kind of compromise. So if I can get things done 80% well, then I'm pretty happy with that.
Mm.
And that other 20% usually is in my head, and no one else actually knows what that other 20% is. So that 80% is actually someone else's 100%,
Yep.
even though it's my 80%. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So what you think is someone else's. So that 80%, they're like, oh, this is off the charts amazing. You're like, I probably could have done a little bit better, but that's actually pretty good. So, and I've saved my sanity. So, and that stuff that I wanted to work out didn't work out, but no one actually knows. So I think if we can kind of stick to that 80% rule and just give yourself a little bit of break, be a bit kinder to yourself,
Hmm.
you get so much more done. Because if I waited till everything was 100%, I'd never get anything done.
You end up suffering from scope creep because you keep going, oh, I could do this and I could add this and this would make it better. And it just doesn't end
Always.
because you keep thinking of more ideas. So you have to draw a line.
Boundaries are really important, absolutely. And 80%, and my 80% is pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I think that's a good rule to live by to save some sanity, but also just get stuff done.
Yes, absolutely. Because
Finding a
you
balance.
can't, yeah, it's finding your goals and being able to, get things across the line because otherwise things will never get out, you'll never finish a thing, and you'll just completely feel unsuccessful, inadequate, and unsatisfied because you can't find that point where you go, actually, this is good enough. And
Good enough is
yeah,
great. Like,
it
seriously,
is.
good enough is great. Most people cannot even get to good enough. So good enough is great.
Exactly. Yeah, it's wonderful
Definitely.
advice.
I'm glad it's helpful.
Yeah. And what should
Certainly
they
helps me on
ignore?
a daily basis.
Yes. And what advice should they ignore?
Oh, anything that says don't do this, you can't do this, it's not for you. Yeah, I hate being told you can't do something that makes me want to do it. Yeah. And anything gendered, like, oh, it's for girls or anything like that. The whole, run like a girl campaign, I love. It's like, well, run like a girl, like me, who can actually run. I'm not talking about me, but that's the idea. But I
Yes.
think, yeah, I think that whole the gender thing is separation. And I think it's very unhelpful these days.
Mm,
So anything that says you shouldn't do something, there's something that says you probably should.
yes. And you won't know until you give it a shot.
And you can't be good at everything. And if you're not, okay, move on to something else. Totally okay. And be okay with not being good at everything.
Yeah.
And but giving your best shot and trying new things. And I think always just trying new things.
Yes.
But yeah, advice not to follow. Yeah, anyone telling me something I shouldn't do,
Yep.
um, give it a go.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's
And you
great to be
fail,
able
that's
to,
okay. You learn something, you learn not to do it again. That's okay.
exactly. And it's good to know to take things off the list as well. Because that way you go,
Absolutely.
well, that's answered that question. Now I can move on.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I think just anything that suggests that you're not capable or that you shouldn't be doing anything, I just think, oh, all those, and it's usually coming from someone who has a fear themselves.
Yes.
So
It's
it's
very
their
limiting.
fear that they're manifesting, not it's usually got nothing to do with you. And this is what I find with our teachers. Oh, our students can't do that. It's like, well, let's give it a try. And then they come out and they smash it out of the park. And it's the teacher's fear that they can't do it
Yes.
rather than students.
Yeah. And it's in a way they're trying to protect them as well because I don't want them to fail. It's like, but it's okay if they do. And it's a learning thing and they can move on from that and they can grow from that and that's okay.
Yeah, I think redefining failure, and failure is learning. I mean,
Hmm.
failure, if you don't learn from it, it's bad. But if you learn something from each time you fail,
Yeah.
then
It's
it's not really
progress.
failure. Yeah, absolutely. It's all learning.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Janine, for speaking with me today. It has absolutely been so wonderful and enlightening talking to you about all of these things, all of your initiatives and your journey. It's been fantastic. So,
Thank you.
if people would like to know more about the work that you do, where can they go?
Yeah, so www.techgirlsmovement.org. You can find us or Tech Girls on any of our socials. Please connect on LinkedIn. Anywhere you'll find us, we're pretty proactive out there. You'll hear from us every week. But yeah, come and enjoy the journey with us and find out what young people are truly capable of. And we'd love you to be involved.
It's such an amazing program. And when I first was like, oh gosh, if only this was there when I was at school, this would have been incredible.
If only I had a dollar every time someone said that, I'd never have to actually seek any funding ever again, because you're certainly not the first, but as a
Yeah.
not-for-profit, but no, absolutely, and I think back to what I was doing when I was 8 or 9, and I was probably eating sand or something, and I certainly wasn't building apps to solve problems, somewhere around the world, but yeah, it's pretty amazing when you give young people an environment where they can choose a problem they care about, they can meet people to help them, and they can thrive. It's a truly beautiful thing when all that comes together.
Absolutely, it is. All right. Well, thank you again. This has been so amazing, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day. And I look forward to you joining us at Tech Girls.
Learning about the Tech Girls Movement Foundation from Jenine has been an inspiration. The skills learned from the competition aren't just entrepreneurship, they're life skills. And they're teaching the next generation about things like how to be problem solvers, acknowledging the value of their work, and knowing that they can contribute to their world in their own way. To learn more about Jenine and what we discuss on the show, or to connect with us, please visit the STEAM Powered website at steampoweredshow.com. You can also find out more about Jenine at LinkedIn, the Tech Girls Movement Foundation at techgirlsmovement.org, and Janine's research work at adjointresearch.com, the links for which will be in the show notes. If you enjoyed this conversation, please let me know. Subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, and share this with your geeky or geek curious friends. You can also support STEAM Powered on Patreon and Ko-fi and the STEAM Powered Show, the links for which will also be in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.